were moved out of their places, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every freeman hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Now, folks, before I answer that question with the Bible, I want us to just back up a little bit. These signs that Jesus gave us in Matthew 24, in Mark 13, in Luke 21, they are letting us know that Jesus is coming soon. There are signs that we read and see happening or have already happened to unmistakably know that we are in the very last days. The last things that Jesus gave us in his signs of the times were the signs in nature. In Revelation chapter 6, we read, and when he had opened the sixth seal, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. Ladies and gentlemen, theologians and historians have said to us that this has already happened. It's not something we're looking forward to. It's already happened. The great Lisbon earthquake of November 1st, 1755, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest earthquake that had been seen and recorded, coming in three parts. One part came at 9:40 a.m., the next one at 10 a.m., and then at 12 noon, the shock came through and shook the earth for 6 minutes. This earthquake was 4 times the size of Europe. 30,000 people died in the first 6 minutes. Fires burned for 6 days. Islands were swept away by the tsunamis that were generated from the earthquake. And we find all of this not in the Bible that documents it. The Bible speaks of it. But when you look at the Encyclopedia Britannica, volume 7, page 848, it talks about it. The first sign, 1755. It goes on to say, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And ladies and gentlemen, when we look through history, we see the unexplainable event when May 19th, 1780, it just became dark in the middle of the day. For almost a whole day, with a supernatural darkness that men, women, boys, and girls across this country could not move, could not do anything. They felt this oppressive darkness just like Egypt felt for 3 days. They said you couldn't read a newspaper in front of your face with the light of a candle. It was as though God fixed the clock. When he let the sun stay up for 12 hours, well, he shut the sun down 12 hours. Because he's able, because he's God. And then that night, a supernatural darkness, the moon now sits in the sky like an avenging red eye, looking at the inhabitants of planet Earth. Verse 13, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth like a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And that too happened November 13th, 1833, ladies and gentlemen. And look at these dates, 1755, 1780, 1833. All of these just before the longest Bible time prophecy was about to end, to let us know that we're in the last days, which ended in 1844. Longest time prophecy in the Bible, ending in 1844, letting us know we're in the last days. And these physical signs in nature and in the heavens are there to let us know that there might be wars and rumors of war all through earth. There may have been upheavals. There may have been famines and pestilence and all of these different things. But what comes after this, the Bible is telling us, and history is showing us, it is letting us know that we are really in the end of time. It's to open our eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, the next thing John sees after all of that, the next thing John sees is the heavens depart as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island are moved out of their places, and the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every freeman hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. And on the rocks of the mountains they said, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath has come. And the question is asked, who shall be able to stand? Then John sees in chapter 7, with all of this turmoil happening on planet Earth, he sees who is going to stand: those who have heaven's seal of approval. You see, the book of Revelation is not for us to be afraid of. It's for us to study and cherish. For when we see all of these things happening on planet Earth, it tells us, don't worry, children of God. I will take care of you. I won't come before you have a time to get ready. I am giving you my spirit. I am drawing you in love. And I will send my angels to seal you with the seal of the living God, that you might be able to stand. Someone ought to say, thank you, Jesus. The seal of the living God, to show a distinction of those who belong to him and those who do not belong to him. To show those who come with the avenging power of God to pour out his wrath, as we read later on in this series in Revelation chapter 16. The seal of the living God will protect us, ladies and gentlemen, from the 7 last plagues that will be poured out by 7 angels from 7 vials. My Bible tells me that these angels were about to give up their work, but then another angel came from the east and he told them, don't stop, continue until the servants of our God are sealed in their foreheads. My Lord always makes a difference between his people and those who are not his people. But there's something that we have to understand. He gives us the choice to line up on his side or go on the other side. Again, I say this text over and over. Romans 15 verse 4. Whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. My mind goes back to the children of Israel when they are about to be delivered from the country and the kingdom of Egypt and all of the other plagues that came out. They just watched what God would do. But when it came down to plague number 10, when he said that he was going to take the firstborn of the Egyptians, he told the children of Israel to take that lamb, that sacrificial lamb that represented him. Because you see, from the beginning, we've been saved by the blood. Somebody ought to say amen. From the beginning, we have been saved by the blood. And he said to take the blood of that lamb, and we want you to put it on your doorpost, on the top of your doorpost, and put it on the sides of the doorpost, and those who are on the inside would be protected. And ladies and gentlemen, when I read the word of God and I see what God can do, those individuals who were there, the faithful Israelites that were inside their homes with the blood posts on the doors, they were protected. But God is so compassionate and so merciful that those Egyptians who had seen enough, you see, God let them see how mighty he was with all of those plagues that he used against Egypt. He did not let them die if they had faith to believe that God is able and that God cares and that God is merciful. And the record tells me that those Egyptians that came into the homes of those Jews, even though they were firstborn, but they had the faith, ladies and gentlemen, to believe that God is kind and God is merciful and God is compassionate and God would save them. They were sealed with heaven's seal of approval for just being on the inside. We look throughout the Bible and we see another example, which is very interesting because this one is more like what we are experiencing in our time. Turn with me to the book of Ezekiel, Ezekiel chapter 9. We see this scenario played out with ancient Israel. Ezekiel chapter 9, beginning with verse 4. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. In other words, those individuals who are looking at the things that are happening in my city, with my people, with this nation, and my heart is broken because they have wandered so far away from God, and they have protested against the evil. And ladies and gentlemen, you know what I know, that those individuals that protested against the evil, when the government and those individuals who are not serving the Lord, they would take the lives of those prophets. They put them in jail. They destroy their homes. They destroy their families. And they continue to worship other gods after the God of Israel, the living God, had done so much for them. And it said God had enough. And he's going to have enough with this world, ladies and gentlemen, when people ignore him, when people make fun of him, when people disrupt his children, when individuals are filled with the spirit of Satan. He's going to have enough of this world. He longs to take us home. And it tells us here, ladies and gentlemen, that these individuals who have a longing and a desire for things to be right with God, and not only for God, but for his people, he says that he's going to send an angel in the midst of them and set a mark on their foreheads, that those individuals who sigh and cry for the abominations of Israel will be sealed with heaven's seal of approval. And it says in verse 5, and to the others he said in my hearing, go ye after through the city and smite. Let not your eye spare, neither have pity. Slaughter utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon who is the mark. And then he says something here we need to understand. And it says, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they begin at the ancient men which were before the house. In other words, as I've said to you before, 1 Peter 4 verse 17, that the judgment of God that's going on now, ladies and gentlemen, the judgment of God begins with God's people. When I was a kid, we lived on a nice little block, and we used to play baseball on the street. And my mother would tell me to stay out of the street. And I would say, okay. But when she would go onto the store and do what she'd do, I'd tell the guys, well, you know the drill. I'll play first base because my gate was near first base. And I was able to stay on first base in case Mom turned the corner, or in case Pop came down the street. I could just be, like coming through the gate. Oh, we're something else as kids, aren't we? But sometimes the game would get intense, and you know how this person is going to hit when the ball is coming to him. And you couldn't just stay close to the bag at first base. You had to move over and be in the street so you can feel properly. And that takes away your watching the horizons for unsuspecting parents. And on different occasions, ladies and gentlemen, different occasions, Ma would turn the corner and I wouldn't even see her until she's right up on me. And she would say, just say my name, Lawrence. It's not like today. Kids today, bless you. If we did the things you did, you would have a different preacher standing here. And she would just say, Lawrence, inside. And I knew what was going to happen. I said, Ma, but everybody's out there, the whole block. Everybody's doing it. And you know what she would say to me? All of those children don't belong to everybody. You belong to me. If a car comes down the street and its brakes fail or something else happens and you get hit, you're my son. You belong to me. Ladies and gentlemen, we belong to God. And in the judgment, and it's three phases, and we're going to look at it one night. The first people that he is concerned with those who say we belong to him. That's why our names are written in the Lamb's book of life, but it doesn't take your name being written in the Lamb's book of life to stay there. It's what's written in the other books and how we live and how we act and how we live and move, how we keep our names in that Lamb's book of life. And we see here the president